In horror, the scales are usually tipped more in death's favour, but there are still a handful of characters we expect to make it: the chosen one, the final girl, the main character, etc. However, even this isn't always so. In some horror movies, no one is truly safe, and in these films, any cast member can die or in some way get got. And sometimes just, everyone dies. So let's check them out. I'm Adam, this is What Culture Horror, and here are some horror movies where no one is safe. And let's kick things off with Psycho. The cornerstone of Hollywood horror, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho has been referenced and revered by directors since it hit screens at the dawn of the 1960s. And despite falling on the wrong side of the Hays Code, it still managed to pack in some gruesome kills, full-on scares, and paradigm-shifting surprises. All three of these elements come together at the end of the first act, as protagonist Marion Crane meets her untimely end. Setting up the entire plot of the film, real estate secretary Marion goes on the run with $40,000 of her company's cash and checks into a motel in the sticks, intending to rendezvous with her boyfriend. Now, what she doesn't bank on is the motel's unhinged proprietor Norman Bates, who has a split personality and an abundance of silverware. Marion is slain in the shower, and the whole film lurches to the right, taking an entirely new narrative path than the one Hitchcock initially set up. Although not that many people are actually dead by the end of Psycho, with just 2 on-screen kills, it is the foremost example of being willing to sacrifice any character. When Marion dies, bloody and screaming in the shower, all bets are off, and no one is safe. Dr. Sleep. Mike Flanagan did the unthinkable in 2019 by returning to Stanley Kubrick's cinematic world of The Shining, spinning off from a film that nobody thought could be sequeled, even given that Stephen King penned his sequel novel in 2013, and bringing Danny Torrance, now played by Ewan McGregor, now going by Dan, back to try and save other supernaturally gifted individuals from the True Knot, a cult that feeds on people with psychic powers. Rose the Hat leads the Knot as they travel the country feeding on a psychic essence that is only released by torturing and killing people with The Shining, and they are fast running out of victims to harvest. Unfortunately, this includes children of all ages. Even in horror films, children are generally protected characters, or are at least safe from the worst of it, yet we have to watch them hurt and kill several kids, including a young baseball player in graphic fashion. But that's not where it ends, as throughout the rest of the film, several presumed safe characters die suddenly and gruesomely, including Danny's pal Billy, who is psychically forced to commit suicide by one of the Knot, and even Danny himself in the film's finale. Halloween Kills. In most slashers, few cast members are safe, but David Gordon Green's Halloween Kills takes it to a whole new level. Kills follows up 2018's Halloween by, surprise surprise, bringing back Michael Myers from a fiery grave. Unleashed on the town of Haddonfield with redoubled fury, Michael is determined to put an end to Laurie Strode and her clan, daughter Karen and granddaughter Allison, and only a mob of the town's good citizens stand in his way. Now, horror movies in general tend to pace their kills, bleeding characters at a steady pace across their runtime, before slowing to a halt at the end as the villain is overcome and the good guys triumph. And this includes the Halloween films. Even if most of the cast are to die, they are pretty much done dying by the last 10 minutes of the movie. Determined to flip the script, Green brings Michael to the edge of death in the film's final minutes, with the entire mob of characters who have made it this far going to town on him. And I want to give a special highlight here to the lady attacking Michael with an iron, and yet, in the 11th hour, the shape gets a second wind, annihilates the entire mob, and then slays Karen for good measure. And right when we thought we were home safe. Trick or Treat. The anthology film is knitted together by Sam, a pint-sized creature in the fictional town of Warren Valley wearing an orange jumpsuit and burlap sack, who is something approximating the deity of Halloween. Trick or Treat offers no sacred characters, no matter their age, status, or whether they are central to the plot. Indeed, the film opens on Emma, our presumed protagonist, but she is dead by the end of the first segment. She arrives home from a party and seeks to take the Halloween decorations down before the night is over, and is murdered and mutilated, strung up like a scarecrow on one of her elaborate wooden crosses. With any concept of main characters right out of the window, Trick or Treat barrels into its following segments, as we come to understand that there are certain rules one must follow on Halloween if one wants to survive, and those who don't? Parents, children, teenagers, pensioners, you name it, the cute little god of Halloween sees and smites all equally. Hostel. A linchpin of 2000's torture porn, Eli Roth's Hostel relishes its kills, serving up extended scenes of torture and nightmarish murders. As with most splatter movies, no one is safe, and yet the way in which Roth goes about proving this makes Hostel just that little bit better than many of us give it credit for being. A squad of young, dumb American tourists, Josh Brooks, Ollie Erickson, and Paxton Rodriguez, head to Europe on a boozing, fun hosteling holiday. Along the way, they are drawn to Slovakia by the promise of beautiful girls, and are kidnapped by an underground torture club for their troubles. Although we are following the trio, Josh is the main man, easily the most developed character and the central focus of the action. So when Ollie is killed, we barely even blink. And yet, soon thereafter, Roth pulls a crafty bait and switch. Josh is tortured and slain almost exactly halfway through the film, leaving no Mark Paxton to fill the protagonist void. Paxton has to step up and fight his way out of the club, picking up Kana along the way and leading a whole new narrative. But Hostel isn't done there. The main body of action in this film is bookended by shocking character deaths. First by killing Josh, but then by having Kana jump in front of a train at the end, when she has escaped and is safe. The Final Destination. As Final Destination fans know, pretty much everyone is up for grabs once they're on death's list, although one or two folks sometimes make it to the next movie. Unfortunately for the characters of David R. Ellis's The Final Destination, well, this definitely is not the case. Now, the setup is familiar. Large group of people cheat death and spend the remainder of the film living in fear and anxiety as each of their number is got by the Reaper in increasingly implausible and outlandish ways. Thanks to a sudden premonition, Nick O'Bannon and the other characters of The Final Destination avoid a freak speedway accident that ought to have claimed their lives, and are made to suffer immeasurably worse deaths as a result, including disemboweling by drainpipe and being dragged along behind a truck while burning alive. The Final Destination takes this carnage and disregard for the mortality of its own characters to another level, because this time, no one survives. Now sure, a couple of the other Final Destinations go this way too, but the Final Destination is notable for its very last minute triple character kill, taking out all three remaining protagonists, including Nick, with a swerving truck. And the less we think about what the point of the premonition is, the better. Red State. Kevin Smith's Red State has recently reasserted itself as a piece of social commentary. Set in Middle America, Smith brings a trio of horny teenagers into contact with a group of religious fundamentalists of the Five Points Trinity Church, who hanker for the mythical good old days and are more than comfortable murdering homosexuals and other, as they say, sinners. As this is America, there's plenty of guns to go with the god, and Smith makes it clear early on that anyone can die, and suddenly. The kills are surprising given the lack of typical setup we get for them, and defy standard conventions. Several characters are killed accidentally, teenage protagonist Billy Ray bites it with a handgun shot to the head, and police officers and agents are slaughtered, including Special Agent Brooks, played by big 90s star Kevin Pollak of all people, and shot through the face with a rifle right as he's been warned to get down. Alien 3. The first Alien killed off its biggest star, John Hurt, first, before going after every other known name, leaving only the relatively unknown Sigourney Weaver, as Ellen Ripley, alive by the end and the film's final girl, one of the most iconic in cinema history. Flash forward to film number 3, this time with David Fincher at the helm, picking up what James Cameron left off in Aliens, and this concept gets taken to new heights. In the opening credits, 2 of the 3 survivors from the previous film, Corporal Hicks and Newt, who had just managed to escape the xenomorphs against all odds, are killed in transit, getting 0 dialogue or screen time. But that's not even the half of it. Despite boasting a cast with Charles Dance and Paul McGann in its ranks, all the bigger name actors of Alien 3 bite it, and when it comes to the final stretch, even Ripley goes down with the ship. Ripley was, as mentioned, the final girl of the previous 2 films, and the franchise star, perhaps the only person we assumed truly safe. But apparently, David Fincher can't let us have nice things. Death Proof. Ironically enough, given the title, nobody is safe from death in Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. The film opens on Arlene, Shanna, and Julia heading out to celebrate Julia's birthday at a Texas bar, when they are unknowingly stalked by stuntman Mike in his Hollywood stunt car. Now, Tarantino is known for playing fast and loose with the mortality of his characters, but Death Proof is a different proposition altogether. Taking the Psycho template and twisting it in his signature style, Tarantino plays homage to the B-movies he and Robert Rodriguez named their grindhouse double bill for, by having all three of the women killed at the climax of the film's first half in a head-on collision with Mike's sweet ride, therefore giving the lie to their protagonism. The connecting element is, in fact, stuntman Mike himself, not the girls, despite the film being shot from the lady's perspective. And once we know that literally any character can die, including all three main characters in one glory slow-motion car wreck, it introduces an entirely new kind of tension surrounding the fresh set of girls stalked by Mike in the second half. And finally, The House That Jack Built. The House That Jack Built is a Lars von Trier movie, and Lars von Trier does not believe in the sanctity of human life, at least not for his characters. Melancolia's characters are wiped away by a cataclysmic celestial event. Antichrist's three characters, including Baby, are dead or dying by the end. And, you guessed it, nobody is safe in the house that Jack built. I mean, there really isn't a named character that doesn't die, and die is putting it mildly. Jack is a serial killer, and serial kill he does often. Jack has his methods, rifles, knives, random objects he finds laying around, and his preferences, women. But nobody is safe from his bullet, blade, carjack, or chaotic personality. Not men, children, police, or friends, nor in the end, himself. Despite big-name stars usually being safe, Uma Thurman's unnamed character who is introduced at the beginning of the film doesn't make it past the 20-minute mark. Despite children being the sacred cow of cinema, Jack headshots two boys on his makeshift shooting range and plays with their corpses. And despite the main character, even in horror, usually sporting some robust plot armor, Jack not only descends into hell, but in essence dies twice by slipping from a rock wall and plummeting into the deepest, hottest infinity of the netherworld. But we'd have a hard time saying he doesn't deserve it.